There is a rule in air warfare that has held true since 1943. The side that sees first wins. The side that sees nothing dies. At 4:52 a.m. local time on the morning of this attack, the United States Air Force stopped seeing. Not because of a technical malfunction, not because of a software failure, not because of weather, because four aircraft that gave American pilots the ability to see everything within 400 kilometers in every direction were sitting on the ground at Al Dhafra Air Base in the United Arab Emirates, engines off, radar domes still, crews asleep in barracks 600 meters away. Four Boeing E-3 Sentry airborne warning and control system aircraft, all four assigned to the Middle Eastern theater. All four grounded at the same time for the first time during this conflict, two undergoing radar calibration, one receiving a full engine swap, one being fitted with upgraded electronic countermeasure systems. The maintenance window was 6 hours, midnight to 6 a.m. The decision to ground all four simultaneously was made approximately 48 hours prior at the wing commander level. The decision was classified. The schedule was distributed through secure channels to a limited number of personnel. It was considered a manageable gap. Ground-based radar and a single E-7A wedge-tail operating out of Saudi Arabia would cover the window. 6 hours. Then the aircraft would be back online and the theater would return to full awareness. Iran did not give them 6 hours. Iran gave them 52 minutes. At 4:52 a.m., 12 Shahab-3 ballistic missiles launched from mobile transporter erector launcher vehicles in southeastern Iran. They crossed approximately 1,200 kilometers of airspace. They reached Al Dhafra in roughly 7 minutes, and 3 of those 12 missiles struck the one section of one of the most defended air bases on the planet that contained the 4 most important aircraft America had in the Middle East. Those 4 aircraft are gone. And what disappeared with them is not aluminum and wiring and radar dishes. What disappeared is the ability of the United States Air Force to know what is happening in the sky above a war zone. Let me explain what was actually destroyed, because the E-3 Sentry is not a famous aircraft. It does not appear in movies. It does not perform at air shows. Most Americans have never heard of it. But every single American military aircraft operating in the Middle East depends on it to survive. The E-3 Sentry is a modified Boeing 707 airframe carrying a Westinghouse AN/APY-1 or AN/APY-2 radar system mounted inside a 30-foot rotating dome above the fuselage. That dome is the most recognizable feature of the aircraft. It is also the most important radar installation the Air Force flies. The system can detect and track airborne targets at distances exceeding 400 kilometers. It can monitor more than 600 individual aircraft simultaneously. It can distinguish between friendly, hostile, and unidentified contacts in real time and relay that information to every fighter, bomber, tanker, and ground station in the area of operations. But detection is only half of what the E-3 does. The other half is command. Inside the aircraft, between 19 and 34 mission crew specialists sit at consoles managing the air battle as it unfolds. They direct fighter intercepts. They coordinate strike packages so bombers and escorts arrive on target at the right time from the right vectors. They manage aerial refueling, connecting fighters running low on fuel with tanker aircraft at precise coordinates. They deconflict airspace so that in the chaos of a combat zone, American aircraft do not collide with each other or fire on friendly planes. The E-3 Sentry does not carry weapons, it does not drop ordnance, it does not engage enemy aircraft, but without it, every aircraft that does those things operates with a fraction of its effectiveness and a multiple of its vulnerability. A fighter pilot without an E-3 overhead is limited to what his own aircraft radar can see, which in most cases is a narrow cone of coverage extending perhaps 150 to 200 kilometers in front of him. He cannot see behind him. He cannot see threats approaching from below the radar horizon. He cannot see the full picture. The E-3 gives him the full picture. It tells him where every friendly aircraft is, where every enemy aircraft is, where every missile is, and where every gap in coverage exists. When a pilot hears the tactical controller on the E-3 say the word clean, he knows his sky is clear. When he hears threat bearing 270, 80 miles, Angels 25, he knows exactly what is coming and from where. Without that voice, he is guessing, and in air combat, guessing kills. 4 of those aircraft were just destroyed. Here is how. Al Dhafra Air Base sits approximately 30 kilometers south of Abu Dhabi. It is one of the most heavily defended American military installations outside the continental United States. The base hosts F-35A Lightning II and F-22 Raptor stealth fighters, KC-135 Stratotanker aerial refueling aircraft, RQ-4 Global Hawk unmanned surveillance platforms, and the 4 E-3 Sentries that were destroyed. Its defenses include Patriot PAC-3 missile batteries and a terminal high-altitude area defense system positioned specifically to counter Iranian ballistic missile threats. Iran launched 12 Shahab-3 missiles in a single coordinated salvo. The Shahab-3 is a medium-range ballistic missile derived from North Korean Nodong technology. It carries a conventional warhead of approximately 750 kilograms to a range of roughly 1,300 kilometers. Its circular error probable, the radius within which half of all shots will land, is estimated between 30 and 50 meters. It is not Iran's most accurate missile. It is not Iran's most advanced, but Iran has hundreds of them, and in this attack, volume was the strategy. The 12 missiles arrived over Al-Dhafra within a compressed window of roughly 40 seconds. Patriot batteries engaged immediately. Interceptors launched against the highest priority incoming tracks. 9 of the 12 missiles were destroyed in flight, a 75% intercept rate. In most scenarios, that number would be considered effective. But 3 missiles penetrated the defense, and the 3 that got through did not hit runways. They did not hit fuel storage. They did not hit fighter revetments. They hit the eastern apron where the E-3 Sentries were parked. The first missile detonated between the second and third aircraft in the row. The blast and fragmentation tore open both fuselages simultaneously. Wing-mounted fuel tanks ruptured and ignited. The radar domes, each one housing millions of dollars in phased array components, collapsed under the concussive force. Fires burned for over 3 hours. The second missile impacted approximately 60 meters from the first aircraft in the line. Close enough for the blast wave to separate the left wing from the fuselage, close enough for fragmentation to shatter the radar dome rotation mechanism and puncture the pressure hull in dozens of places. The aircraft was declared a total loss before the fires were extinguished. The third missile struck the base's primary aircraft maintenance hangar, located roughly 200 meters from the apron. Inside that hangar, the fourth E-3 was undergoing its engine replacement. The missile's detonation caused partial structural collapse of the building. The aircraft inside was crushed beneath falling steel beams and concrete roof panels. 4 E-3 Sentries, 4 total losses. Approximately $270 million per aircraft. Combined value of the destroyed airframes and their mission systems, $1.8 billion. 40 seconds of impact, $1 billion erased. Now let me tell you about the people. 9 American airmen were killed in this attack. 14 were wounded. 6 of the wounded are in critical condition. 4 of the dead were aircraft maintenance technicians inside the hangar when it collapsed. They were working the overnight shift because the maintenance schedule demanded the E-3 be operational by 600. They were doing their jobs inside a building that became their grave. 2 security forces airmen died on the apron perimeter. They were on patrol in the exact location where the first missile struck. 3 munitions specialists were killed in an adjacent storage facility that caught fire from the initial explosions. Master Sergeant Daniel Whitford was 34 years old, 14 years of service, 3 months from retirement. He was one of the maintenance technicians in the hangar. He was not flying a combat mission. He was not engaging the enemy. He was turning a wrench on an engine at 4 in the morning because someone above him decided all 4 E-3s could be grounded at the same time. He did not make that decision. He died because of it. Now let me address the question that matters more than any damage assessment. How did Iran know? The simultaneous grounding of all 4 E-3s was not public information. It was an operational decision, classified, communicated through secure military channels, distributed only to personnel directly involved. The maintenance window was 6 hours. The timing was specific, the location was specific, the vulnerability was specific. Iran's 12 missiles did not hit random sections of the base. They were targeted at the eastern apron, the exact location of the parked E-3s, during the exact window when all 4 were non-operational. The probability of this being coincidence is functionally zero. Iran had intelligence, specific, timely, actionable intelligence about classified American operational schedules at Al-Dhafra. That means one of 2 things. Either Iranian signals intelligence intercepted communications through American secure channels, which would represent a catastrophic compromise of military encryption, or someone with access to those schedules provided the information to Iran directly. Either answer is devastating. Both demand investigation. And the scope of that investigation extends far beyond this single attack, because if Iran can access maintenance schedules at Al-Dhafra, it can potentially access flight schedules, weapons loadouts, defensive postures, and operational plans at every American installation in the Persian Gulf. Every base, every mission, every pilot, potentially compromised. Let me describe what American air operations look like right now, because the operational impact is already being felt across the theater. The United States Air Force maintains a total E-3 Sentry fleet of approximately 31 aircraft. That number has been declining for years due to age, maintenance costs, and parts attrition. The operationally available fleet at any given time is estimated at 20 to 22 aircraft. Those aircraft are allocated across three theaters: Europe, the Indo-Pacific, and the Middle East. Europe requires E-3 coverage to monitor Russian air activity along NATO's eastern flank during an active war in Ukraine. The Indo-Pacific requires E-3 coverage to track Chinese air and naval operations around Taiwan and across the South China Sea. Every aircraft pulled from those theaters to replace losses in the Middle East creates a surveillance gap that Moscow and Beijing will notice and may exploit. The Air Force has announced that 2 E-3s will redeploy from Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma to the Middle East within 72 hours. 2 aircraft to replace 4, and those 2 aircraft will need integration time, crew familiarization with theater conditions, radar calibration, and the establishment of sustainable crew rotation schedules before they can provide continuous coverage. Full restoration of the capability that existed before this attack will take weeks, possibly longer. In the interim, the entire airborne early warning burden for the Middle East is being carried by 1 aircraft, a single E-7A Wedgetail operating from Saudi Arabia. The E-7A carries the newer multi-role electronically scanned array radar, which is more capable than the E-3's older system. It has better range, better target discrimination, and superior detection of low observable threats. But it is one aircraft covering a theater that stretches from the eastern Mediterranean to the Persian Gulf to the Indian Ocean. One aircraft that must land for fuel, for crew rest, for maintenance. Every hour that aircraft is on the ground, the United States has 0 airborne early warning capability in the Middle East. 0. The Air Force's surging ground-based AN/TPS-80 mobile radar systems to forward positions to partially compensate. These systems are effective within their capabilities, but ground-based radar cannot see over terrain. It cannot detect targets masked by the curvature of the Earth. It cannot track low-flying cruise missiles or drones in mountainous terrain the way an airborne platform orbiting at 30,000 feet can. Ground radar is a supplement. It was never meant to be a replacement. Let me quantify the financial equation, because the cost disparity defines the strategic asymmetry of this entire conflict. 4 E-3 Sentry aircraft destroyed approximately $1.08 billion. Aircraft maintenance hangar destroyed approximately $45 million. Equipment, classified systems, and spare parts lost in the hangar collapse, estimated $60 to $80 million. Emergency redeployment and logistics costs, approximately $12 million, total damage exceeding $1.2 billion. 12 Shahab-3 missiles at approximately $3 million per unit, $36 million total. Iran spent $36 million. Iran inflicted $1.2 billion in damage. That is a 33-to-1 return on investment in pure financial terms. But the financial cost is the smallest part of the equation. The operational cost, the degradation of awareness, the loss of coordination, the increased risk to every pilot flying every mission, the exposure of American bases to threats that will now be detected later and engaged with less warning, those costs compound with every hour the E-3s are not in the sky. And this is the part that requires the most attention, because the target Iran chose tells you everything about how Iran intends to fight this war. Iran did not strike fighter jets. It did not target F-35s or F-22s. It did not go after the aircraft that have been bombing Iranian positions. It went after the aircraft that make those bombers effective. The platform that coordinates them, the platform that protects them, the platform that tells them where to go and what to avoid. This is systems-level warfare. It is the recognition that a modern Air Force is not a collection of individual aircraft. It is an integrated network. Sensors feed data to command nodes. Command nodes direct shooters. Shooters depend on tankers. Tankers depend on coordination. Everything depends on everything else, and the entire structure depends on the E-3 Sentry to provide the awareness that holds the network together. Iran removed that awareness, and by removing it, Iran degraded every other element of American air power in the theater without firing a single shot at a single fighter. The F-35s are still on the ground at Al-Dhafra. They are undamaged. They can fly tonight. But the pilots who fly them will do so without the comprehensive air picture they have relied on for every mission of this conflict. They will fly with narrower radar coverage, slower threat warnings, less coordinated refueling, and a higher risk of fratricide in congested airspace. The aircraft are fine, the system is broken. Here is what you need to take from this. 4 E-3 Sentry aircraft, the airborne radar, and battle management platforms that served as the foundation of American air superiority in the Middle East were destroyed in a single missile strike at Al Dhafra Air Base. 9 American service members are dead, 14 are wounded. The financial damage exceeds $1.2 billion. Iran spent $36 million. The attack targeted a classified 6-hour maintenance window, indicating intelligence penetration at the operational level. 2 replacement E-3s are en route, but full capability recovery is weeks away. 1 E-7A Wedgetail is carrying the entire theater's early warning mission alone. And every American pilot flying tonight is flying with less information, less protection, and less margin for error than they had 24 hours ago. The coverage you will see on this event will show satellite imagery of burned aircraft. It will quote Pentagon officials saying operations continue. It will frame this as damage to a base. It is not damage to a base. It is the removal of the central nervous system of American air operations across an entire theater of war. It is the difference between a pilot who knows everything around him and a pilot who knows only what is directly in front of him. It is the difference between an air defense system that gets 90 seconds of warning and one that gets 30. It is the difference between a coordinated air campaign and a collection of individual sorties hoping for the best. That difference is not abstract. It will be measured in the missions that launch tonight and the ones that do not come back. Subscribe for the full daily breakdown. We track the systems, the platforms, and the decisions that determine how this war is actually fought. Not the version built for headlines, but the version that explains what happens next and why it matters before it lands on your screen anywhere else. Hit the notification bell. The eyes went dark this morning. The replacements are not here yet, and the missions are already launching.